Industrial revolution is here and we should not waste time.
Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Sphumelele Zondi with your technology and social media news. I hope you are ready for level 1. And remember that COVID-19 is still with us. So we still have to take those precautions and wear those face masks and stay home and keep it safe unless we really have to leave the house. It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. This week, our Twitter poll is asking you if you have downloaded or if you think it's a good idea to download the new COVID-19 tracing app that the president has been talking about. Results of that are coming up later in the program. Firstly, here's what's coming up tonight. We go to the small town of Howick in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands and find a massive digital divide over there. We play around with the new Samsung Galaxy Note 20 smartphone. And in our discussion, producer Sandile Hlangani chats about animation and its state in South Africa. Open Up SA, Gig Culture and SABC teamed up recently to organize a skills development program in the small town of Howick in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands. Nomfundo Madondo lives in the township of Mevana in Howick. Like many young people here, she's unemployed. Her only method of connecting to the internet is through her mobile phone.
I don't have a laptop. I only use my cell phone regarding looking for work, sending emails, and maybe I also get posts on Facebook regarding job opportunities.
Lola Nimtalane is also unemployed. He had to drop out of school when his parents passed away when he was a child. He and his siblings had to fend for themselves thereafter. He wants new digital skills to help him get employment in this fast-changing world. Nomfundo and Tolani have come to the Howick West Community Hall where Gig Culture and Open Up SA are hosting their Code Bridge program.
Across the board, youth are experiencing very similar challenges. Number one, they feel like their voices are unheard. And number two, they feel like somebody else is actually sort of representing them without them really being aware of it. And then the one last thing that I really picked up here was youth unemployment. Seems to be extremely high within Mgeni. I did a survey, quite a quick survey yesterday, just by raise of hand. Almost 70% of the youth here today said they don't have access to employment or they don't have access to the skills to gain employment here.
Here, the young people participating have gained various digital skills.
We're teaching youth about digital and data literacy, so that we notice that there's a lot of South African youth who don't have such skills. So since now we're moving into the digital world.
While many young people from big cities like Johannesburg, Pretoria and Cape Town would have much easier access to such programs, those in Howick have nothing like this that's permanently here. An NPO called SABC invited Gig Culture from Pretoria and Open Up SA from Cape Town.
We as an organization, we took this initiative to upgrade our kids with digital skills so that they can create our own platforms, they can create their own business. Since we are the underprivileged community and the poor community, it is very crucial that kids need to get skills at the early stage, so that they can flow with this civilization at this moment of time.
Those that participated say they think what they gained here will help them a great deal in future.
Njengomuntu ongawathola umsebenzi, ngasebenzeke ngithole sengikene umsebenzi ngendlela ebesihamba ngayo, like ufunda ama-computer abanye bethu bebengawazi.
i-spreadsheet u-excel esifundile kade ungihlule ekuqaleni kade understand kodwa ngolwazi engilitholile la ekhaya lulwenzela kwaba easy ukuthi ngiyi-understand and ngiyazi
nokuyopresenta phambili because since nje sengenza no-N6 sengiqeda ngibhizi manje ngifuna i-N7 ngizoke ngifike kumele ngiyopresenta ngime phambili of which into kade ngingayijwayele esikoleni namhlanje banginike ithuba lokuthi ngibe nesibindi sokwazi ukuthi ngime phambili ngibheka abantu sipresente leyo nto ekusuke kukhulunywa ngaso ngaleso sikhathi
nange-Google Suite ngabasiza nangalokho lokho kungisiza kakhulu ukuthi ikhompyutha ngiyazi kangcono.
While this is a start, organizers of this program say they would like a better solution for young people in Mevana and other townships in Howick to stay connected to the internet and have better access to digital tools like laptops, tablets, and PCs, which are seen as basics elsewhere.
My long-term goal as a champion of this initiative, I just so wish to have a community Wi-Fi and a community hub or community lab per se. Why is that? Because I've just experienced, we just did a survey going around our primary school and secondary school. That's whenever there is an assignment or homework that needs to be done at home.
And we hope that the digital divide we've found in Howick in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands can be sorted out so kids can then be able to access these technologies that everybody needs. All right, so let's go to another skills development program where there was a graduation in Pretoria recently.
Following an intense 12-month on-site training program, the 2020 class of Data Science Skills program drew to a close at a graduation ceremony in Pretoria.
We are launching the first cohort or the first brigade of the 4IR in terms of the data scientists. We have others that will be coming. So stay glued as we bring the news to you and showcase more beyond the skills that we are giving to people to say those that want to be entrepreneurs, what kind of technologies that will be providing for them as startups.
Fueled by big data and AI, the program provides young people across the country with work experience and technical training.
If we're talking about identifying South Africa's niche in the fourth industrial revolution era, we've got to make people ready. And as first step towards readiness is appreciating that the new oil is data. And if it is so, therefore it means people must be able to analyze, mine, and do everything that needs to be done with the data.
These data science graduates say they are now ready to make their contribution in the corporate world.
Within the industry, I have started a business of my own, and I am hoping that I can take my solutions that I've already started working on to the Department of Transport and the aviation industry as a whole, and I hope that they, bite.
Well, I have a passion for business, and so I'm very interested in the application of data analytics in business, coming up with solutions that can help businesses advance and create more jobs.
Look, I think the biggest thing is us trying to change the world and trying to start with South Africa and previously disadvantaged people. My biggest contribution would be to impart my knowledge that I've gained.
Those who are here say, while there are many organizations on the continent that are working towards applying digital skills knowledge in the region, greater collaboration between all role players is needed for sustainable development in the future.
It is important for public-private partnerships to manifest themselves for the benefit of the sector and the country at large. There are areas where the government will fall short in terms of filling certain gaps that complete the picture for us to realize certain objectives that we have as a country.
It is becoming clear without the expertise of professionals who turn cutting-edge technology into actionable insights, big data is nothing.
We're a distributor for social grants in the post office. Therefore, it would help us improve our planning to understand the data that is produced by social development and SASA to say how many people are there from Department of Health, how many children are being born. Then it helps us to plan better.
This program also seeks to give predominantly those from disadvantaged communities opportunities to be part of a skilled workforce as well. As these graduates go on to various places of employment, new recruits are now needed.
It's great to see such partnerships giving skills to those that need them the most. Now, recently producer Lebo Mokomela played around with the new Samsung Galaxy Note 20 smartphone.
Samsung introduced the world to its latest Note series flagship smartphones, the Note 20 and the Note 20 Ultra. And here to review the device with us, specifically the Note 20, is Brendan Lotz from Hypertext.
So Brendan, let's get to it. I just want to start with the hardware. I noticed that the Note 20 compared to the Note 20 Ultra has a plastic backing. So if you could just elaborate, explain that for us, considering the pricing, was that a good idea from Samsung?
For 24 grand, to have a phone that has a plastic backing, it feels a little bit cheap. I can sort of understand why Samsung did it. It's so to bring the price down. I mean, if you look at the Note 20 Ultra, that's a 36,000 Rand phone. But I don't think that it was a good move to maybe put plastic on the back. It does feel cheap, and that's primarily the problem with the Note 20, is that internally it's a very, very good phone. I mean, you have the latest silicon, you have a lot of RAM, you have 256 gigs of storage. But once you start scratching away at the surface of the device, you start to kind of have these questions. I mean, the plastic backing is just one of those questions. And I think that if you are shopping in that premium range, having plastic is really just something that you don't want, especially when on the other side of the market you have things like glass. I mean, Huawei and Apple are all using glass or premium aluminium materials, whereas the Note 20 has plastic.
Let's now get into the camera. This is a 12 megapixel. Does it live up to its expectations?
Yes and no. So it really depends on how you are shooting. So one of the key features that Samsung is building is 8K video, which is cool, but number one, the file sizes are massive for 8K. Number two, the display isn't 8K, so you're not getting the full effect of shooting at that range. And it just takes up a lot of space. So the camera is fine in terms of like if you're shooting in broad daylight and you're not trying to look for too much detail. Like if you are just snapping to share with friends and family, it's pretty good. But I find that when you start to be critical of it, when you're starting to create stuff that you might want to publish in a professional sense, it does leave you wanting. So for instance, in low light, and this is something that Samsung has struggled with for a very long time, in low light, your pictures look very washed out. Sort of like the contrast is just missing, the color depth is missing. There's just something missing from the photos. And I feel that, especially with a phone like this, where you're building the camera as this really great experience, you can't have things like that when somebody is just pointing and shooting.
Let's talk about the S Pen. So, I mean, the selling point at the launch, I think you were there, I was there, was the low latency, right? And how it scribbles in real time. How was your experience with that?
I mean, it's cool. It works. It performs as advertised. The latency is very low. You get a very responsive feeling when using the S Pen.
So what characteristics does the phone have that you feel like, okay, these are actually, Samsung did a really great job with these?
So for me, I think the performance here is the real performance of the Note 20 is a marginal, not a marginal, it's a massive improvement over last year's model. It's like a smaller, thinner process, which is a lot more, a lot less power hungry and a lot more powerful as a result. Because once you make your chip smaller, you can push a bit more power through it and get more performance. So things run really, really well on this phone. From launching apps, multitasking, having multiple apps open at once. There's really nothing that I threw at this phone that made it go, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. The other important thing is that while charging, the phone remains incredibly cool, even under load, even when you're running very demanding. Samsung's cooling in this phone is incredible. It's a really, really good thing that they've done here, and I hope that it's something that they continue throughout their releasing, the future of Samsung releasing smartphones. The charging is also very, very fast. It's actually incredible. charges. The caveat to that, though, is that the battery doesn't last very long. I had to go, some days I would have to charge it by the end of the day, some days I would have to charge it midway through the day. It doesn't last very long, but it is a 25-watt supercharger that you do get, or super fast charging that you get, and that I think is a really cool feature.
And that was Brendan Lott's take on the Samsung Note 20.
It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Let's take a short break, and after the break, producer Sandile Hlangani has a conversation about the state of animation in South Africa. It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome back. Now, it's often said that animation is growing in South Africa. Now, here, producer Sandile Hlangani has a conversation with Ati Musoke, who is a digital artist, about the state of animation in South Africa.
Thank you, Spumelele. So COVID-19 has caused major disruptions in most industries, but there is one area that has been able to keep the lights on: animation. So we are now joined by Ati Musoke. Ati, thank you so much for making time to join us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, man. Thanks so much for inviting me as well. It's just something I've been looking forward to doing for a while.
Just for the benefit of our viewers, what is animation?
Animation it's the illusion of life. It's creating the illusion of life on the screen or through other mediums in a way that uses cartoon, it can use paper, it can use stock frame animation. You can use a variety of mediums. But at the end of the day, it creates this illusion of motion, movement, personality, character, expression, etc., in a way that the viewer can recognize and relate to.
South Africa is now ranked in the top 10 when it comes to animation. So what is it that we're doing differently as a country when it comes to animation?
South Africa is clearly doing something that brings the highlight or brings us on the map in a way that's different from everyone else. And I think one of the key features is our ethnic variety allows us to draw on so many different stories. You know, there's African storytelling on one hand, there's influences from our past, from our present, and all of these inform the decisions that the animators are making in a way that's unique to everyone else. And clearly our viewership is recognizing that. They're seeing that and they're recognizing and relating to it. And it's really exciting to see it unfold.
It looks like for the animation industry, the coronavirus has created a big opportunity.
Without a doubt. I think the biggest thing about animation is that you don't need to worry about an audition. For example, auditions were illegal, not necessarily illegal, but they weren't allowed during the COVID pandemic due to the social distancing and other issues that are going to be infringed upon. And with animation, you don't need to worry about auditions. You can create a character as opposed to looking for the right person who fits the role. You can create sounds and other virtual effects and put them in. And what I've noticed a lot about animators and other digital artists is that we can work remotely. We don't have to be in the studio. And COVID really highlighted that. It showed the fact that people can work from home, we can create, we can entertain in the form of animation and digital art, while still providing for these studios that need employees, that need animators and etc.
Why are more brands starting to turn to animation, especially during this time?
I think animation is just such a powerful tool for storytelling. It can bridge gaps in ways that can't be done with other mediums. And I think one of the biggest things I've noticed is that the generation that grew up watching Tom and Jerry, Dragon Ball Z, other cartoons, they are now the generation that are getting jobs, driving cars, and are being the market that is being targeted. And they appreciate this medium.
What brands are most suited to using animation?
I think it can be applied in so many different sectors. I've seen it being done in marketing and advertising. And I think it's very important the way that it can really bridge the gap is a form of communication. I've seen it being done in healthcare and visualization, you know. There was a time I even interned at an engineering firm that asked me as an animator to come in and help them with visualization, help them with creating simulations that are believable for the client. There's of course entertainment, we all know about it, Tom and Jerry, Dragon Ball Z, and a list of whole other examples of entertainment that have been using animation successfully. And probably the most powerful one is education right now. Education has, I feel like it's an untapped reservoir for animation to go into. I mean, it has been used, but not to the depth that it really can. And I think it's a really cool avenue to go into.
What kinds of jobs are there in a typical animation studio?
Man, there's so many, because the very process of animating has multiple steps, and you can actually specialize in each of those steps. For example, there's the storyboarding and the character design at the beginning. This is pre-production, when you're still planning what the story is, what the characters look like, etc. You can focus directly on keyframe animation, which is when you make the most important motions in the animation. Or you can do the in-between animations as well, which is when you actually animate between this pose and that pose, you animate the movement in between. And then there's a whole bunch of post-processing as well. These are things like visual effects, adding sound that links up with the animation, rigging a character as well. Rigging and 3D modeling is such an underrated skill, but it's so important. It's basically adding a skeleton to your character. And once you've rigged that skeleton, you can now move it accordingly for your animation.
How can Africa profit from its creative industry?
It's a good question, man. I feel like as Africans, we have an innate spirituality about us, an understanding of the rhythms of life, of nature, that we can see it in our ancestors, we can see it in the rock art, we can see it in all of these heritage pieces of art that we have left behind. And if we can tap into that through animation as well, if we can tell our story through animation, that can really put us on the map. For example, as Abeklosa, we have Inson, which are basically stories. Stories that always impart information. They always have a lesson to be learned, kind of like the parables of Jesus in the New Testament. And if we can do this through animation now, using African characters, with vernac, with settings that our children can understand and recognize, we can really, I feel like we can really enrich our communities one step at a time through this medium.
Ati, thank you so much for making time to join us.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to come.
We are now taking a short break. After the break, we're back to Siphumelele.
SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram News Network at sabc.co.za. On email. Welcome back. Here's what else took place in the rest of the world in the technology space.
ByteDance, the Chinese parent company of TikTok, said in a statement that its proposal for the U.S. operations will need approval from both China and the United States. Last weekend, ByteDance filed a proposal with the U.S. administration to make Oracle, an American multinational computer technology corporation headquartered in California, its technology partner in the country to resolve the security concerns. ByteDance said the proposal does not involve the selling of its business and technology. And now in Turkey. The country's first flying car briefly hovered in the air, successfully completing its first test flight, Turkish manufacturer Baykar Defense said in a written statement on Tuesday. Video released on Wednesday showed Cesare flying up to 10 meters before landing on tarmac. Named after a 12th century Muslim polymath known for the invention of the flushing toilet, Turkish flying car Cesare is expected to reach 2,000 meters height with a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. And now in the USA. Apple Inc. rolled out a new virtual fitness service and a bundle of all its subscriptions, Apple One, focusing a holiday season product launch on services that are the backbone of Apple's growth strategy and cater to customers working at home during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Introducing Apple Fitness Plus, a new service for Apple Watch designed to inspire you to get fit and stay fit. The entire Fitness Plus experience is powered by the Apple Watch in some really cool ways.
Apple's biggest seller, the iPhone, is expected to be announced next month after executives have said its launch will be delayed by several weeks because of pandemic-related disruptions.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has been urging South Africans to download the new COVID-19 tracing app. We ask you on Twitter this week what you think of this app, if you think it's a good idea or not. Now, those that responded to our Twitter poll say, we have 40% who believe it is a good idea. That is a good majority. At 34% are those who say no, it's not a good idea. There is a further 26%. Those are people who don't actually know if it's a good idea or not. We also have answers from Uncle GP, who says, of course, this app can help, only if the trackers act with prompt after receiving this information. Lee Lencia says she's been in contact with 3 people during this pandemic and is still waiting a tracing team to contact her. So she's asking an app for what? All right, so that's it. That's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network. Now, that's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Remember that you still need to protect yourself despite the fact that the country is moving to lockdown level alert 1. So, from us and the rest of the team, stay home and stay safe. Good night.